Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Conversation with Muse. I am your host, Monique, and today we have a super fun episode for you. We have blogger, entrepreneur, and influencer Sabine Stinger, aka the Bee Stinger. Hi, Sabine. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Monique.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for even agreeing to do this. I really appreciate it. I know that you have a lot going on, so thanks for even taking the time out. How are you doing on this beautiful Sunday morning?
I am doing great. I'm a little tired from the weekend,
Okay.
but I am feeling amazing and I'm happy to be here.
Hey, that's amazing. So I do this with all my guests, and I want to start here. We're going to do an icebreaker. It's kind of like a this or that. It's a rapid fire, so whichever you prefer between this or that. All right?
I'm ready.
Perfect. So, new clothes or new phone?
Oh gosh. This- New clothes, I'm not even gonna lie.
Okay. A nice car or a nice home interior design?
Nice home interior design.
Baths or showers?
I would prefer a bath.
Okay. Online shopping or in-store shopping?
So I love a little bit of both, but I think since COVID, I've been more into like online shopping. But yeah, I still love the experience of going into a store.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, money or free time?
Money.
TV or books?
I would say TV because I love watching movies, so TV for sure.
Okay, and then would it be TV shows or movies?
It would be movies.
Movies, okay. And then the last one, I feel like I know what this is, but beer or wine?
Wine for sure.
Perfect. All right, that's great. I do want to get into it, but before we jump into like all the fun stuff that we have planned, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and who you are.
My name is Sabine, and most of you may know me as the Bee Stinger. I am a blogger. I am also a newly online store boutique owner, and I am also a personal stylist.
Now, when did you get started being a blogger? Or is it something that you do full time? Or is it kind of like your main gig and then everything else comes secondary? Or is everything kind of leveled? And so, yeah, let's start with when did you become a blogger?
Okay, yeah. So I am actually a full-time blogger. I just became full-time about roughly 2 years ago.
Okay.
I was working retail for about 10 plus years, but blogging has been something that I've always been passionate about. It actually started from the time when I was in college. And a lot of people used to always ask me like what I had on and everything like that. And they used to love how I put things together.
Hmm.
I had a niche for making inexpensive things look expensive. So I started a blog. So I was like, why not document this and share some like a platform to share my everyday looks. So I pretty much would like have my friends take pictures on their camera phones.
Hmm.
They were horrible quality, but you got the picture. So I would just kind of like just share, my look, where I was going, and I would kind of like add an inspirational quote towards the end. So
Hmm.
that was something that became as like a hobby for me, and I did like during my free and spare time. But then I realized like this was something I was actually pretty good at. So I figured out a way to monetize it about 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and yeah, here I am now.
It's just been rocking since. That's amazing. I love
Yeah.
that. Now, in your Instagram bio, it says faith, fashion, and lifestyle, which I completely adore. And your feed itself is just so pretty. But like you mentioned, you kind of decided that, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to take pictures. Fortunately enough for us, Instagram became a thing, right? So we didn't have to just rely on our websites to say, okay,
Mhm.
here's my look for the day, outfit of the day. Um, Tell us a little bit about your style, not necessarily your brand, but your style and what that is.
So my style is, I would say it's a mixture of classic, timeless with a hint of trend. Because I do love, what's in now, but I like to kind of figure out a way to make it classic in my own. Because
Hmm.
I'm really big on, just timeless pieces. I love things that you can wear from years and years to come. And I'm a big fan of like old Hollywood films, the black and white films, like the
Hmm.
Marilyn Monroe's, the Dorothy Dandridge, like women used to just dress so elegantly, and I just love how they carried themselves. So I think growing up, I always used to look to them for inspiration.
Hmm.
So I don't know, it just kind of bled into like my own personal style, and that's kind of how I carried on, the way I dress and everything like that. and I just love dresses. I love wearing them. They're just so easygoing. It's just a one builder, so you just kind of like throw it on and you can accessorize. So yeah.
And it's so funny you say that about like old Hollywood movies because when the first time I saw your Instagram, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so like classy and it's like super sexy but super fun. Like it was like a nice balance of sexy, but then also I don't want to say professional because then professional comes off as very astute, but it's kind of
Right.
it's a fun, playful, and sexy vibe, and I really enjoy. I was like, oh, this is cute. Okay,
No,
okay, I see
it's
what's going on
funny
here.
because ever since even in high school, I used to be told that like I dressed mature for my age. Because I used to shop at like mature stores that probably 30 people that my age shop at now. So
Mm-hmm.
like, I was shopping at the Ann Taylors, I was shopping at like Lord and Taylor, I was shopping at like
Got it.
Limited. So, but I just always was big on like classic pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So there's things that I've had for 10 plus years and I still wear to this day.
I
So.
was just gonna say, okay, so what is the most vintage piece that you have that that's it's your staple and you love it?
So, of course, with age becomes, your weight gain and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. Yep.
I wasn't able to like, I was literally like a double zero
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago. So I cannot fit in to a lot of my things, but I have this huge crazy idea that I want to keep like a capsule of my pieces and hopefully be able to share and pass on to like my daughter.
Yeah.
So I have like a trench coat that I love and I never want to get rid of. I have like this really nice like fit and flare dress. It's navy, it's very classic. It has like a V-neck line and I want to keep that for my daughter and hopefully I can still fit into it. But yeah, for now I have like two pieces.
Got it. Now, I do want to transition a little bit into your fashion company, XVI in Lux. Talk to us a little bit about that. In the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned you guys just launched that online platform. So tell us a little bit about that.
So my XVILuxe brand is it's separate from what I actually do, but it is a brand that I started with one of my very close friends. We've both always loved fashion, and we wanted to figure out a way how we can kind of like showcase that. And we were like, why not start an online boutique? So it was birthed this year, about a couple of months ago. We're still fairly new, like I said, but we definitely wanted to figure out a way how we can kind of mesh both of our styles together. So that's pretty much XVI. It's a platform where two best friends get together because XVII actually stands for 16 and it's the age that we met.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very near and dear to our hearts. And we just loved the idea of kind of like having somewhere where girls can like shop and, feel great about themselves, something that they can like wear with their best friend, whether it be like once brunch or like dinner.
And you said it's like a mixture of both of you guys' style together. Because I'm assuming as best friends, you do have a lot of similarities, but then there's also like
It's
differences
also
in your style.
different, yeah. So I think that was one of the things that we definitely wanted to kind of like hold on to was like, okay, well, you have a very separate style from me, and I have this style, but like, how can we make it work together? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then for starting a brand, because I can assume, you are a content creator and that's something that you do outside of your company. But starting a brand, not even how hard, because a lot of us know how hard it is to start something, but what is one of the things to actually consider for someone else that's thinking, oh, I want to do something like this? What would you say, what should be the first thing that they consider in starting a brand?
So I would say the first thing that would be important with starting a brand is identifying your brand and knowing where you want, like what you want people to know you as. You know what I'm saying? So you want people to be able to kind of like know, okay, this is Nicole's brand or this is Sabine's brand. Like you have something that kind of pretty much like sets you apart from everybody. And I
Yeah.
think you have to start there.
And then for it's speaking about branding, your personal blog and all that stuff, your branding is photography is prominent to that and making content and publishing content. How important is it for you to plan your content or is it kind of just like, okay, I get dressed for the day and I go?
Okay, so bear with me because I am literally still figuring that out. I feel like with content planning and everything like that, I'm not that much of an organized person,
Okay.
which is kind of embarrassing, but I think I'm still trying to navigate that and figure out what works for me because I know friends who are like, oh yeah, I have like Q4 already planned out. And I'm like, that is insane. Because I'm like, I'm still trying to go and get through next week.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it just depends on what works for you. I would say it's really important to try to be organized. How I try and do it now is that when I get brand opportunities, I try to plan out my week, and I usually shoot every weekend.
Mhm.
For me, it doesn't work with me to kind of like shoot day by day. I usually batch my content, which means when you kind of shoot like a plethora of things all at once. So that's what works for me.
So you just mentioned that creating content, it's kind of for you, sometimes it's week by week or however you plan your content. For anyone looking to become an influencer or coming into that arena, what would the one thing that you would recommend? Do you recommend that they have a photographer that they work with, or what is your recommendation there for creating content?
So the important thing that you said is that when they first start. So I know when I first started, I didn't have the financial means to kind of like hire a photographer and hire this or that, you know. So I had to kind of like work with what I had. And thankfully, I had supportive friends and, you know, family members who were like, okay, you know, I'll use my camera and things like that. Because, you know, when you first start, nothing's going to be entirely perfect.
Yeah.
And you have to give yourself grace about that. But I would say, you know, moving forward, when you do have those resources, you know, available to you, then it would be important to kind of like establish a relationship with a photographer. That way, you know, you can continue like the same type of like style that you would want to.
Mm-hmm.
I think what helped me is that when I started working with my photographer, I was able to kind of like create that aesthetic that I wanted and to set the tone. And I know that when people are coming to my page, they feel happy, they see bright and airy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I felt like that kind of like gave that feel of you know, positivity and like, you know, making people feel good or like filled up with joy. So that's kind of like what I wanted to give out for my brand. And then also what helped me along the way eventually when I got to a certain point, I was able to kind of have representation.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely helps me with my unorganization that I deal with now. They kind of like stay on top of me with like my brand content and everything. So I think what's great about them is that they're able to focus on like the back end, like the logistics of it all, or like
Mm-hmm.
making sure that this and that gets due, and I get to focus on the creative side.
And that was going to take me into my next questions because as a blogger and an influencer, like you said, when people come to your Instagram, they're inspired. You have a specific style, so your branding is very on par. And I know that there's a lot of brands reaching out to you, and we'll get into some of the brands that you've worked with and that you're currently working with. But my question was going to be, do you have a team that kind of help facilitate some of this stuff where you can then, like you just mentioned, be the creator and just the personnel, and then others are in the background. But you kind of hinted a little bit about that just now. So tell us a little bit more about your team that you have.
So with my team, whew, thank you God for my team. But I was blessed enough to have the opportunity to have a formal representation at the top of 2021. So I think going into things, I was a bit more headstrong, and I was able to kind of like identify like brands. I think to kind of just backtrack, I had an issue with, you know, not knowing early on that not every brand was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with having like a team behind me now, they're kind of helping me kind of just identify like, okay, hey, you know, maybe you shouldn't work with this brand because it doesn't kind of align with your personal brand.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all money isn't good money. You know, you want people to kind of like come on your page, and granted, yeah, you know, I want to work with brands and continue to kind of like have that flow of things going. But I don't want people coming on my page and seeing that I'm working with, I don't know, randomly a beer campaign. And not to say I don't drink beer, but I'm just saying like people will probably look like, this doesn't really seem like
Yeah.
Sabine. I want everything to kind of like be on brand. So I think having a team behind me kind of helped me with that. And then also, like I said, kind of just staying on top of like my creative side and like knowing when to post, when not to post, and also to kind of have like not fully ads on my page, also have like,
Hmm.
content filler where I can kind of like show my personal style and my personality in a sense as well.
Now, was like blogging and being an influencer? I know you kind of hinted to this a little bit earlier, but was this something that you've always wanted to be a part of, like in that space, or you kind of fell into it? Because I know for some people, they'd be like, oh no, I was going to school to be a dentist. And then I kind of just, so was this something that you always knew you wanted to be a part of?
So, okay, I always knew I wanted to be in fashion. I just never knew that this was what it was going to be. So, in my mind, I was like, okay, I want to do fashion. I want people to come to me for like my looks. I think I I knew that I wanted to be a content creator. I just never knew the term for it, if that
Yes.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I always wanted to, have, really nice looks that I put together and I'm able to kind of like showcase that in some way. Didn't know how, but I also knew that I wanted to be able to kind of like have the opportunity for people to kind of like ask me, like, hey, where did you get this? And I wanted to be able to give them that information. So it was just very I had the idea of it. I just never knew how like
To like,
it
put
would
it into
happen. And
things.
it's crazy that I'm here now. But it's funny story. I was actually in school to be a nurse.
Okay.
So my parents are islanders, and if you know anything about a thing or two about islanders, they're very big on they're not really big on like the creative lane of things with
Nope.
when it comes to career picking. They were really big on me either doing being a doctor, like you said, mention a dentist or a
Hmm.
nurse.
Yep.
So yeah.
That sounds so familiar. It sounds so familiar. And I'm glad we're in an age now where us as the kids, we're not kids, but as the kids, we can say, hey, I don't want to go to law school. I don't want to be a
Right.
doctor. And you can kind of choose your own path, which is, again, creatives now is not what creatives were before, or a term that was even identified before, where they'll, now creatives are making more than doctors. And
Right.
it's crazy. Um, Tell me a little bit about some of the brands that you've worked with, and then some of the brands that you're currently working with, because I know you have some cool stuff under your belt. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I think I am most excited about a few brands actually that I've worked with. So I've worked with J. Crew, I've worked with Ann Taylor, I worked with Loft, and I think what was really cool about those three brands that I did work with was that I used to work for them
Mm-hmm.
as a employee. So it was a pretty cool full circle moment for me
Mm-hmm.
in those moments, and it was like so surreal because I was just like, wow, I used to work for these brands, and now I'm working with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty nice. I loved working with them. And then also, I think I am currently working with JCPenney. I just
Okay.
did a really cool kind of like live situation with them, and I was able to kind of showcase one of their newest luxury collection brands. And I am also working with Nordstrom. I've worked with Target, and I've worked with a few brands such as like Dior for makeup, and I've worked with Kiehl's, a skincare brand, which I currently use. So that was a pretty cool moment for me as well.
That's amazing. Like the full circle thing for me is just like, it's like working in the store and then now working like alongside and branding. So that's super accomplishing. I can assume
It
on
is.
your
And
end.
then it's just so cool to have moments where I'll have like people that I used to work with, like my coworkers, and be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, I just seen you in like their newsletter. Like, this is so cool. You're killing it, girl. Like, it's such an
Hey.
amazing feeling. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm proud of you for that. Now,
Thank you.
what is okay, before I get to that, because that's super important. Um, your Instagram, obviously staying fresh is, it's a part of the brand, staying relevant, staying in the moment. How do you continue to be fresh and continue to grow your audience outside of, obviously, working with brands and growing there and expanding? How is it that you're able to continually stay fresh, relevant, and continue to grow your audience?
So, what works for me is that I'm really big on connections and building it outside of like on the back end of things. So I love to kind of like make time for responding to DMs. I want to, create those personal experiences with my followers and my audience, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so crazy because even till this day, like I'll have some people who kind of like respond like, "Oh my gosh, you replied, thanks so much," and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, why would?" So it's really it's pretty cool to kind of like be able to kind of connect with them, and even if it's like the smallest thing that they're asking me, I love to try to make the time. I mean, it's hard, but I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what's important because I would love to be able to kind of like, I can't get to everyone, but those few people that I do want to continue to get to, just to kind of like build a community of my own.
Yeah.
Also the thing with like responding to comments and stuff like that. I am also big on engaging with other people that I follow. I think that really helps with kind of like people seeing you pop up,
Yeah.
on your social. So they want to be like, oh, well, let me go engage on hers type of thing. I'm trying to think of other things that I've done to continue to grow. I think consistency is a big thing for me as well. I try to make sure that I am consistently posting
Yes.
and yeah, being able to share content with people on a daily basis at
And I
least.
think that's a key. You mentioned a key thing, which is I think a super super important thing for all brands, whether it's in blogging or stores or whatever it is. Anyone that has a business and you're on social media, engaging with your audience, or like you said, responding to DMs and not thinking you're too big for the people that support you. So that's super important. So thank you for that. I did want to ask you, what is one of the biggest advice that you have gotten, just in general, that sticks with you to this day?
Biggest advice I've gotten is think highly of yourself because the world takes you at your own estimate. So I feel like me, that's
I love that.
yeah, so I think I was really, there was, times where I was like, insecure or doubted that I can do what I'm doing now. Even to this day, I'm not perfect. I have moments where I still doubt. I'm like, oh my gosh, was this good? Like, are people gonna
Yeah.
like it? So having that piece of advice that I try to stick to or like kind of reference back to, it's kind of helped me continue to kind of like have confidence or kind of like the whole fake it till you make it mentality.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like people don't really necessarily know internally what you're battling or how you're feeling. But if you kind of just give out that, you're the bomb or you are like the it factor, I'm going to believe it,
Yeah.
because it's based off of what you're giving out. So,
I
yeah.
agree with that. I agree with that 100%. And what would be an advice that you would give someone, whether they're interested in coming into this space or just in general? What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone?
Take your time. I think that it is more of a steady and slow pace race versus a fast one.
Hmm.
I think that it's okay to have the walking process rather than the running, like the sprinting. Kind of like if you were running track, like I preferred like the mile long runs versus the
100 meters.
sprinting. I just
Yeah.
feel like with in that situation, like kind of comparing it to life, you have to embrace like the mistakes you make along the way. You have to embrace those moments where of uncertainty because it kind of just like one builds character and kind of like allows you to be able to perfect your craft. So you just have to take your time. I would say just give yourself grace and have patience. Like things will come eventually. You just have to continue to believe in yourself. You have to sometimes you have to be your own cheerleader.
Yeah.
Like not everyone's gonna, be on the bandwagon right off the bat. You have to just continue to just believe in yourself sometimes and it'll happen eventually. And you have to believe that.
I agree. I have a thing where I'm like, trust your sauce. No one else is going to trust your sauce the way you do. So that's
That's a
beautiful.
good one too. Yeah. I agree.
Now, what do you have next in the pipeline? What's next for the Bee Stinger brand?
So I am in the process of wanting to relaunch my blog. I've been on a hiatus for years, but I definitely want to get back into that. I love blogging and I'm so excited to kind of like start that back up. I want to probably get into dabble into the YouTube world as well. It's a lot, but I definitely want to kind of just expand outside of Instagram.
Hmm.
So,
Okay, that's beautiful. And tell the people where they can find you, all your contacts, your website, everything. How can people find Sabine?
so if you want to follow me, you can follow me on the Bee Stinger. I'm also on Facebook. So everything, I'm Sabine Jean on Facebook. So I'm my full name. And then for Instagram is the Bee Stinger.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sabine, for being here. I really appreciate you. This was a really great conversation. I learned a lot of what you said kind of just reinforced a lot of things that, we know, but we don't apply these practices. So thank you so much for dropping some gems here. And guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Conversation with Myuze. As you heard, go follow Sabine on Instagram, follow her business page as well. And then her website is also in her Instagram bio. So go ahead and check that out. And I'm sure I'll just drop it below as well. So check out the comments below in the description below. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, hit that bell so you can get notified when we have a new video, and also share with a friend and family member. And if you are not new to the channel, you know the routine. Share the video with someone. And again, thank you guys for coming. I'll see you next time on Conversation with Myuze.
Thank you for having
Bye.
me.